Welcome to PastPathsUK-USA, the channel where history, culture, and design come together today. We begin a fascinating journey across two nations, the United States and the United Kingdom, through the buildings they created. Architecture is more than walls and roofs. It reflects how people lived, what they valued, the challenges they faced, and the dreams they chased. From America's wide-open lands to Britain's centuries-old streets, from wooden colonial houses to towering skyscrapers, and from peaceful countryside cottages to elegant Victorian homes, every structure has a story. Let's explore how these two nations shaped their identity through architecture. Architecture as a mirror of society. Architecture is a silent storyteller. It tells us who had power, who needed protection, and who dreamed of progress. In the UK, buildings grew slowly over hundreds of years, shaped by monarchy, tradition, and limited land. In the USA, architecture moved fast, driven by freedom, expansion, and innovation. When we compare these styles, we're not just comparing buildings, we're comparing mindsets. Britain's ancient architectural roots, the United Kingdom's architecture, is deeply rooted in history. Many homes and structures standing today were built hundreds, even thousands of years ago. Stone castles, brick houses, and narrow streets reflect a time when defense, durability, and permanence were essential. Buildings were meant to survive wars, weather, and generations. America's fresh beginning. America's architecture tells a very different story. It began as a fresh start. A new land, new rules, and new possibilities. Early settlers focused on survival and speed. Homes were built quickly, using wood from nearby forests, designed to protect families from harsh climates rather than impress with decoration. Colonial houses in the USA. Colonial houses were among America's first architectural identities. Inspired by British designs, they featured symmetry, central doors, and fireplaces, but with simpler construction. These homes were practical, balanced, and efficient, reflecting a society focused on building a future rather than preserving the past. British influence on American design. Although America sought independence, British influence never disappeared from its architecture. Roof styles, window placement, and layouts all echoed British traditions. But Americans adapted these designs, making homes lighter, larger, and more flexible, suited to a land with space and opportunity. Victorian homes in the UK. Victorian architecture in Britain represents elegance, order, and craftsmanship, built during Queen Victoria's reign. These homes reflected the growing wealth of the middle class. Decorative brickwork, bay windows, fireplaces, and detailed interiors became symbols of status and refinement. Victorian homes in the USA. When Victorian architecture reached America, it evolved. Homes became larger, more colorful, and more expressive. Towers, porches, and ornate details reflected America's optimism and individuality, a society unafraid to stand out. Building materials. Wood versus stone. One of the biggest architectural differences comes down to materials. America had forests, so it built with wood. Britain had stone and brick, so it built structures that could last centuries. This single difference shaped how long buildings survived and how cities evolved. City layouts and growth. British cities grew organically over centuries. Narrow streets, compact homes, and layered neighborhoods tell stories of gradual expansion. American cities, on the other hand, were planned rapidly. Wide roads, grid systems, and open spaces allowed cities to grow outward and upward. The rise of American skyscrapers became symbols of American ambition. With new technology and fewer historical restrictions, cities like New York and Chicago reached for the sky. Tall buildings reflected economic power, innovation, and the belief that progress had no limits. Why the UK stayed low in the UK? Height was restricted by history. Protecting ancient landmarks and city skylines became a priority. Instead of height, British architecture focused on preservation, honoring the past while carefully adapting to the future. British countryside cottages. British cottages feel like they belong to the land itself. Built from stone, clay, and wood, they blend into nature. These homes reflect a slower lifestyle, farming, family, and tradition passed down through generations. American suburban living. American suburban homes tell a story of space and privacy. Detached houses, driveways, and large yards reflect the American dream: independence, ownership, and personal freedom. Modern architecture today. Today, both nations are redefining architecture. Sustainability, technology, and innovation now guide design. Glass towers, smart homes, and eco-friendly materials show how architecture continues to evolve with society. Different paths, shared purpose. Despite their differences, architecture in both the USA and the UK serves the same purpose: to shelter, to inspire, and to connect people. Each building is a chapter in a nation's story, written not with words, but with walls. You've been watching Past Paths UK-USA, where we uncover the stories hidden in history and design, from colonial houses to Victorian homes, from skyscrapers to cottages. Architecture reminds us where we came from and where we're going. If you enjoyed this journey, stay with us as we explore more paths of the past that shape our present.